Good very early morning, at least for me. Welcome to the very super duper easier version of learning how to study music theory, learning how music works. And this is Dan, and I'm going to be continuing on the sort of experiment that I started yesterday. I'm a very busy guy and really have no time to make videos, but I'm trying to, I'm out here and I deliver newspapers in the very early morning. I'm out here just trying to share my knowledge in simplifying how music actually works, so that people that are I think most people are sort of like me, where maybe they don't really like to process super complicated information. Just give me 1 second here while I go into this building. Yeah, I'm just out here throwing newspapers, but I'm a 25-year plus self-taught musician. And over time, what I've sort of learned is music is hard to understand, but you can break it up into little pieces, into easier to understand little chunks. And so, in essence, it can be the complicated concepts are really manageable to understand when you break it up into little tiny pieces. And each little tiny piece can be super duper easy. Very technical term. The little tiny pieces can be easy to understand on their own, and then you can put them back together. And so that's what I've had to do in order to be able to understand music better for myself. And so since I've been doing that for a very long time, and because I was stuck at one point, and I kind of sorted it all out in my head. I'm just trying to share all the stuff I got in my head. So if that sounds good to you, and you don't mind my shaky video, this is when I'm able, sort of the only time slot when I'm able to do this. And you don't mind the shaky ride?
You could do it.
Hold on 1 second.
Hang around, like hang around.
I don't know what's going on.
Videos of me.
I don't know, like, this happened to me yesterday too. When I started my car, the radio just started playing another video. That's a clip from my other video that I made yesterday. So yeah, I really don't have time to do it, but I'm gonna try this experiment to see if I can distribute my little chunks of knowledge that are all bouncing around inside my head. That each one is super duper easy to understand, and when you put them all together, it's like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that will make the complicated, hairy stuff more manageable. Okay? So I'm gonna review really quickly. I will try to review and repeat all concepts. I started yesterday from the very beginning, and I'm going to be building upon whatever concepts I've already taught as each day comes. So yesterday, I defined music theory. What is music theory? Let's look at the words. Music, well, it's pretty self-explanatory. Theory, what's theory? Theory is when somebody comes up with a sort of reasoning for how they think something works. See, like, there's no way to prove it, but I think this is how this works. Like, it's really hypothesis is how they call it in science. But then when a hypothesis gets more and more lines of evidence behind it, then it becomes a theory, a thing that you kind of can't disprove or prove fully, but there's lots and lots of evidence supporting it. So it gets like a reputation, kind of like, you know how like we have a credit score? Something that has become to the status of a theory is because it has a lot of reputation. It's got a high credit score, a high reputation score, because of all of the things that, upon research and examination, it's holding its own weight. All right, so just breaking it down. But the simple definition, my definition, is just, well, the study of how music works. This is how we think music works. In other words, that's what music theory is. So, how does music work? Well, we have music is made of sounds. And sounds can have pitch. We can have low pitch, like really low, or even it could go like so low that you can't even hear it anymore. Or it can have high pitch, like a whistle. When somebody blows the whistle, that's a high pitch. Tire screeching, like a brake. You ever have your brakes screech when you stop your car annoyingly? That's a higher pitch. So music is made of these pitches. However, each pitch, depending on how fast or slow the sound is vibrating, determines the exact pitch of the sound. And what we've sort of done is, if it's vibrating at a certain speed, it makes a certain note that's a certain pitch, exact pitch. We would assign that pitch to what's called a note. So a note it's a pitch of a specific frequency, or it's an exact pitch. So if you ever played, like gone up to a piano and just poked, you would know that as you go to the right, the notes get higher and higher. So the pitch is going up as the notes go higher. But each key is actually tuned to an exact pitch. So all music is composed or made up from these pitches. You can have a series of pitches playing one after another. So I used the example of the Flintstones melody in the last video. Whatever, right? I missed a couple of notes, but you get what I'm saying. We've all heard that growing up. Right? They made that song by taking these pitches or notes and tying them together one after another. And so when you play, I don't know if you've ever built like one of those sort of necklaces. Like we used to do it when we were little kids. They used to make us make all these kind of stuff when I was a kid. We would put like a string, and then we put like beads on the string, and then you would put them in different colors. Oh man, sometimes I feel like it's crazy how life is so short, and at the same time, when you think about it, like how many things have fit already into your life. It doesn't even feel like it was me at all. That is crazy how long ago that was. But yeah, I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7, and the teachers would give us a string, and we would put beads, right? And you can make designs. But based off of the color of the bead, you can make it look a certain way. And that's exactly how melodies are constructed in music. You're taking these different notes, and you're putting one after another as time is going by. A note, another note, another note, another note. And just like the colors create the way the beads look on the string, the notes provide different colors, if you will, of sound. Not visual colors, but auditory colors, or colors we can hear. And as I walk back to my car, it's acting silly. It keeps playing another video.
The textbook.
Okay. Anyway, we'll work out the technical difficulties as we go, because that's how we do it. So you have the notes are put one after another as time is going by to create the design of how it sounds, the melody. You call it a melody. As notes, you can call it a melody, or you can call it phrases, right? As just kind of like how for the word phrase, I'm going to be introducing different words, and I'll be repeating them over and over ad nauseum, like until you feel like I can't take it anymore. We'll be repeating it because we learn through how do you make something super duper easy? You need to get familiar with it. How do you get familiar? Well, you see the same thing every day. You see it all the time. The more you keep repeating something, now you recognize it. Recognize. Cog, like cognate, meaning processing with your brains. I'm recognizing, so I'm processing it with my brain again. I'm recognizing it again, see? And so what happens is, as you keep processing the same thing over and over, it becomes familiar. This is how we learned how to add and our multiplication tables and all of this. I'm very big on the way that I learn on repetition. And if you didn't repeat it too well back then, that's probably why you can't count. No, I know you can count. I know you can count. But if you probably can't count, like, you know, you're not amazing at multiplying and stuff, maybe you didn't repeat enough times. Maybe you didn't become familiar enough. And so this is the way it is. You need to become familiar by repetition. So I will be repeating everything. If you miss it, these videos will be designed where if you don't get something the first time, like, you don't worry about it too much, because it's just going to constantly be repeating. I'm creating through this technology we have the ability for you to spend some time and just listen to somebody that knows this stuff rambling the same stuff over and over until, if you spend enough time, you'll just know all of this stuff. And that's the goal. I just want you to know all of this stuff. So music theory can become, music itself can become approachable, not feel impossible. Because I know what it's like to try to start learning musical concepts and for it to feel utterly impossible. I know what that's like. I remember.
Or to some other guy.
So I'm gonna try to keep this volume down. I think that's how we're gonna solve the technical difficulties of it turning on. And yeah, music theory, you can learn this. I promise you. I don't know how far you can go. I don't know how far I can go because the stuff gets thicker and thicker and hairier as it goes. But to be able to understand the basic concepts and to learn more and more until where you're able to sort of understand how these melodies are created, how to put different musical elements together to create real music. Like if you desire to make an original sound that's never been, well, I don't know about never made, but like that you want to make something for yourself. You want to be able to write songs down the way. If you stick around and just listen to this stuff over and over, you'll be competent. You'll be able to do it. I feel really confident of that. I have confidence in you. Because if I could do it, I believe you can do it too. Especially when I equip you with the sort of easy way of looking at things that I've developed over time. All right, I'm gonna try to keep these videos to about 20 minutes, I think. But this is just review. And I'm going to add one concept. I'm gonna add one concept. Just bear with me right here because I'm trying to get into a building and I really have to juggle. Really have to juggle to get into this. I gotta figure stuff out. Everything starts like this, you know, guys. Everything always starts like this whenever you're developing. I've started many programs. It always starts a bit disorganized. But it'll come together. Now, what I was saying is, music theory is the study of how music works. Music is made of notes or pitches. The exact highness or lowness of the pitch determines what note it is. We assign names to these notes. And we have 12 notes that we use in Western music, or music that you're probably familiar with hearing if you're from these parts. And they have names, okay? They have names assigned to them because in order to understand something, in order to understand what somebody's referring to, you need to give it a name. Because as you name it, then people are able to understand what it is you're talking about. And again, please forgive my super shakiness. The super duper shaky music theory video. I'm the super duper tired guy. Listen, I got up at 2 a.m. today. I get up early every day. But because I'm sort of out here already anyway, I see a window of opportunity for me to be able to create these documents that can be reviewed. So just bear with me today a little long. I need a little bit more time today because still finding my groove. But how is it so far? Is it all right? Like you're able to follow? Are you able to follow the reasonings? Simple, right? So far, we're gonna build. We're gonna build on the concepts. When you tie several notes, you play or sing several notes one after another, it will create a melody or a phrase. Just like a sentence is a phrase when you're talking, it's words, a few of them tied together, right? Or several of them, that creates a sentence, that creates a phrase, a verbal phrase. Same way, if you put several notes one after another, it creates a phrase, which is sort of like a musical version of a sentence. In music, our goal is to say something, but using the language of music. So you use notes, which are like the words, and you use, depending on how you play them, it creates phrases, which are like sentences. And so these are the foundational elements, or the building blocks where we're starting off with in music. The very basic building blocks. The notes are assigned specific names, but the names are in letters. Okay, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. These are the letters of the musical alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then after G, the next letter that's higher is H. No, not H. A. There's no H in the regular alphabet. It goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, right? But in music, it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then once you get to G, you go back to A again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And again, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It just repeats. But as it repeats, it's going higher and higher and higher in pitch. Okay? Now it's more complicated than that, but I'm gonna leave it like that for now until we add more information in between. Okay? I'm using specific language here for a reason. We're gonna add more information later in between the musical alphabet. Okay? And the way I look at things, it's not necessarily gonna be perfectly how you'll read it in a textbook. But if you look at it this way, it's gonna be so easy to understand everything. We're putting little pieces together. We're looking for functional understanding. We're not looking to prove that we know it all. We're looking to understand the little bit that we understand, to be able to take command of it. That's what I'm interested in, because the goal here is to get you to be confident to play or to listen to music and to recognize and understand what you're doing. Isn't that the problem here? Oh man, I want to learn about music, but like, it's so complicated. Oh, this is crazy. It's like math. Oh, forget this. I'm out of here. This is so boring. And it is boring. It is boring to learn something that you don't have no familiarity with. Like, you're looking at it, you're like, this is confusing. Man, my head hurts. And so we want to take away that head hurty kind of feeling and replace it with something we recognize, that we're familiar with. It's like you see somebody's face that you know, even if it's been a long time, you're like, I kind of know that guy. Wait, hang on. I go to school? Who is this guy? I've seen him somewhere. That's like being vaguely familiar. But if you see like your brother's face, you know right away, right? We want these concepts to become like our brother's face, because it doesn't hurt our head to just recognize something that we already are so familiar with. And so that's my goal. It takes patience, for sure. It might take for you to leave and come back because you're tired of hearing this nonsense. But just keep coming back to it. Listen to the same information over and over again, and it'll become more and more familiar. See, what it is here is that I'm teaching you how to learn. I'm teaching you how I learn, let's say. Maybe you could learn different ways, but I learn like slow, and I learn like the way that we were taught as kids to learn. How we learned our ABCs, how we learned our counting methods and stuff like this. This is how, I don't know, maybe you're smarter than me, but this is how I got to do it. And I just think it makes life so much easier. But to learn this way, it does take time. It does take time and repetition, all right? So if you got a little bit of time and you're willing to hear things repeated, it's going to work out. You're going to be able to do this thing, okay? And we're going to make it as painless as possible in the process. Musical alphabet is A through G, and then it repeats. As you're going A, B, C, D, E, F, the notes are getting higher and higher. And then when you get to G and then you go to the next A, it's going higher than that, okay? And I'm going to introduce one more concept, like I said, that wasn't in the previous video. The concept of, see, if as they're going, the notes are getting, if I have a first note here, like la, 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 like that, right? As they're going up, what happens is you have la, 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 right? As it's going up. As it's going up, what happens is, if you were to keep this first note here as a reference, as you go up in a scale, la, 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 what's happening is you see as the notes are going, the distance between them is getting bigger. So each sound or note has its own reference point of how high or low it is. So if you were to compare two notes to each other and how they sound in pitch, that's what we call, in music theory, in music land, we call it an interval. Interval, INTERVAL. Interval. In regular, like, real life, I think that word is used most often, that I can remember, is used to explain, it's used to explain time going by, right? Like, intervals are like you're talking about, you're measuring the amount of time that has gone by before you do something again or something like that, is an interval. Like each day is a 24-hour section of time, and the interval lasts for 24 hours and then it repeats. In music, we're using the distance, but not between two things, but not of time, but how different are the pitches. So you have this note, right, whatever. I'm so terrible. I'm so terrible at the singing. If I could understand it, it'd be so terrible at singing. Then that means you can understand it too. There's hope. But anyway, right? Those two notes are different. La, 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 la. They're not the same pitch. And I'm jumping from lower to a little higher, right? Lower to a little higher. See? I'm going from one exact pitch to another exact pitch, even though I'm definitely not hitting the exact pitch, but you know what I'm saying. As I do so, I'm crossing over distance to get from one to the other. And that amount of distance between the two notes is called an interval. All right? So let's, again, an interval. I'll be repeating these things constantly. But for the first time, we're defining it right here. An interval is the distance between two notes or two pitches. You're talking about how far apart they are from each other. But here's the cool thing. When you put two notes one after another, it creates a sort of color. And this is how all music really operates. It's called harmony. I'm explaining things the way I understand it, okay? This is what has allowed me to grapple, to get a handle on what music really is. To me, anyway. When you have two notes that are not the same note, there's a distance between them, but that distance and that comparison of the distance between the two, of how the distance and between how this one's lower, this one's higher, and how lower or higher are they relative to one another when you compare them against each other, that distance creates a certain feeling. It creates what I see as colors. I see the notes as colors, and I'm not talking about physical colors, but I'm talking about like what colors are visually. Notes are a kind of the same way, but through how we hear. So we hear two notes, we could hear that they're not the same. And the way they sound different from each other, it's like two different colors look different from each other. You understand? And just like how you can take paint and you can mix yellow and blue and when you mix them together, it creates green. This is sort of like how the notes can blend to create colors. They have their own distinctive sound, but then when you put them one after another or together, they create a sort of mixed dynamic that creates colors. I hope that sort of makes sense. But intervals are the distance between two pitches, but the comparison between them creates a certain feeling or sound or color. And intervals are going to be absolutely huge in terms of being able to understand music theory. So we're going through the building blocks, and the concepts are going to get more complicated. But if we start off super simple and we understand what everything is, then as we continue to add to it, and add familiarity and recognition to the things, then it becomes easy to marinate on these concepts and not have it feel like your brains are cooking. And even though when you see something new, it's gonna cook your brains, when you keep coming back after like the third or fourth time, you're gonna be like, okay, it won't feel like work to process the information again. That's why I'm gonna be repeating everything a gazillion times. So it's not hard. It's not hard. Just like keep going through these videos. Keep going through these videos. And I call it learning by immersion. You're immersing yourself. Like if you put yourself underwater, now you're gonna get wet. You can only be hearing these conversations so many times before it actually becomes easy to understand everything. Okay, so I hope I can serve you in this way where this stuff becomes approachable. That's the whole goal, to break down the barriers that keep us from being able to approach music and enjoy the beauty that is inherent in music. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time, and I hope that I can give you more for the time that it takes you to watch these videos. I hope that you feel like you got more than you gave with the time. I'll see you guys next time. You can do this. You, the person watching on the other side of this screen. Listen, if this goofball can learn this, I'm telling you, I didn't come from a musical background at all. I didn't grow up with none of this. I think I was born with some degree of musical talent, but I'm definitely not a prodigy. And I didn't really even start to get exposed to any of this until I was a teenager. In this way. Well, when I think about it, I did play sort of in a band in grade school, but I was a drummer, so I didn't really learn notes at all. So I was a snare drummer in an orchestral thing. I didn't really learn notes, but I was exposed to it to some degree. But I didn't start to learn these concepts until I was about 15. I didn't have anybody playing music in my house. So you could do it too, at any age. I don't care. I've taught this stuff to, we had in little after school programs and stuff that my wife and I ran, some of the kids as young as 4, preschool program, they were able to grasp this to some degree. So I have confidence in you. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.